Talk about streaming reach. We've got it for you. How about a picture of outer space in real time? Welcome back. An exciting day for space travel. 8 days after launch, a robotic lander named Athena making its final descent to the moon's surface. You want to see it? Just stay right here with us. Expect any moment now you're going to see that touchdown. This video to our monitors shows the lander over the moon's south pole region. That's expected to be the landing site there. And in fact, we're watching it very closely here on our monitors, and it's pretty cool, right? NASA live streaming the event right now, and you're seeing how this is going to work. If it's successful, this will mark the second lunar landing for a Houston-based company. They are called Intuitive Machines. Just how intuitive will this machine be? It's using lasers to sort of gauge how to land. Let's go ahead and listen in to what we're hearing from Space Control as they're watching this history.
Come from our mission director at the bottom right hand of your screen.
And just to briefly jump in to show you what we're looking at there, you obviously see the fuel power there underneath that unit. But you're also seeing what the company has developed by way of lasers shooting left and right and then out to the bottom of that craft.
The viz just as you are at home, along with Nova Control.
Those lasers will help it learn to land. They're actually sending data back to the craft.
We estimated Athena would touch down on the surface. We did hear a call out for a Quasonics LOS. That is our radio system, something we expect to happen at pitch over.
So we're going to stay on these pictures and let you continue listening to this. But we do also want to let you know we're covering the landing with a team of space experts. CBS News space consultant Bill Harwood, CBS News national correspondent Mark Strassmann, and Intuitive Machines spokesperson and retired astronaut, by the way. Not too shabby of a resume, Clayton Anderson. We're going to listen to your voices, gentlemen. Not too bad of a picture there coming to us on CBS News 24/7 from outer space. How significant is this landing, gentlemen?
And we are currently not seeing our
I'll jump in. You know, it's a very significant landing. I'll point out that what we're seeing on the screen is actually an animation. It's not actual photography yet. We expect pictures as soon as they get down on the surface or shortly thereafter. It's a very significant mission. It's showing that a commercial company can put payloads on the moon for NASA. They want to be able to carry, you know, customer payloads to the moon as a transportation service. That's a big goal of NASA's, to lower the cost of lunar exploration and collect data at the same time that'll help their Artemis program when they hope to put astronauts on the moon.
Question for Mark Strassmann. Mark, you had an opportunity before this thing was up in space to actually see it in real life. Has to be pretty gratifying to see it now living out its purpose.
Yeah, it's impressive. It is exciting too. I mean, this Intuitive Machines is a 12-year-old company, as you said, Reed, based in Houston, and they have come a long way in a short period of time. I mean, last February, they became the first company to have a soft landing on the moon of a lunar lander, and now they're trying to prove, in effect, that they're not one-hit wonders. They're trying to establish a track record for reliability in these moments, and this company, you know, intends to become, in effect, the lunar FedEx or DHS or DHL rather, or UPS. They want to establish a real consistent record of being able to send cargo and payloads to the moon on a regular schedule, and this is their second attempt at doing it. And it's a little hard for us to tell exactly what's happening right now at this moment, but this is the big moment for them, and I'm sure everyone in their control room is on the edge of their seats.
Right, and for our viewers who are watching, you'll be glad to know that they can't hear us. They're doing their job. But that's why we continue having this conversation. Mark, another question for you. You've got to be fascinated as somebody who has covered so much that's happened in the space travel industry. And I'm talking about an industry because we've seen sort of a shift, have we not, from governments going up in space to now what appears to be space becoming a business.
Yeah, this is a very, very different era, this commercial era of space. It is being led by companies, not countries. The whole model has shifted where, for instance, NASA is now a customer of companies like Intuitive Machines and companies like SpaceX. It's not just a behemoth that is leading the charge for America in space anymore. And so these companies, with their innovative ways, with their nimble ways, are now leading the charge in getting both people and cargo into space, and in this case, all the way to the moon.
Bill, you also have a history of covering this. You have some familiarity with what the mission will be once it's there. There's a ticking clock. No, they have to do this in the light, so to speak, before the lights go out in space, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. You know, it's a solar-powered spacecraft. They're landing sort of at the start of the lunar day, which can be anywhere from 14 days long, Earth days long, I should say, or less. But in this case, based on the landing time, they'll have about 10 days before the sun sets.
Okay, so let's listen in. I anticipate that well, I was going to say the bottom left of our screen, but we're looking at control right now of Intuitive Machines. But let's listen into what they're saying as they direct really the excellence that has been dreamed about and now is being accomplished. Let's watch and listen.
And therefore needs to be upright. If we were in a different configuration, the engine would have snuffed.
Okay, so we have confirmation. I believe that was from Khan that says the engine's still running. This picture you're looking at, the 10 kilometers up during that braking burn, that powered descent initiation, that long burn that brought us 4,000 miles per hour braking burn. Incredible shot.
Yeah, that's
there.
what I'm saying as well.
All right, there's another view there. Looks like from this panel we're looking at the garage. So that's Lunar Outpost Map rover inside of that square right there, Leah.
Yeah, and while we're listening
looks like
to
it's
this
probably about the same altitude,
chatter from Mission Control, there's a little bit of uncertainty about exactly what's going on with the lander right now. I don't think they're on the surface yet. The engine is still running. It's not clear, and we're waiting on Intuitive Machines to interpret their telemetry and give us a better sense of what's going on. It's literally up in the air as we speak, or up in the vacuum, I should say.
Yeah, I get the sense that they're trying to evaluate where they are. I thought at one point we heard we're on the surface, but of course I'm not hearing it all that clearly. But we're clearly in some sort of an evaluation phase about in this control room about where we are in the mission and whether it's going to be a success.
And
we do have the opportunity right now to ask, while we listen in on this, to talk to that Intuitive Machines spokesperson that is with us right now. How are you interpreting what you are hearing there from your peers, Clayton?
Is that this is the big difference between a manned and an unmanned mission, right? We're relying totally on what the Intuitive Machine Athena is telling us back here on Earth, whereas in a human craft, we could actually talk to the crew maybe and get better insight. But all of this is difficult to do, and we're hoping that they're going to be able to pull it off. And another part for me is that Chris Colbert and Steve Lobby and Jack Fisher are all colleagues of mine from my time at NASA Johnson Space Center. So it's very exciting for me to be able to see them expanding their careers doing this really cool mission.
Yeah, and for those of our viewers who are just now tuning in, you are watching a feed from Intuitive Machines and listening in on that. And the last thing that we saw, and we're just trying to figure out, is the fact that it's still not on the moon, as we expected Athena to land on the moon, and they're trying to figure out, using the readout from that machine, if there's a problem there.
Because we need to remain in a power positive state, Leah, getting that top deck solar array into a spot where we are able to charge. But sometimes you have to turn a few things off to make sure that you're charging and not just burning through that power. All right, by my countdown clock, it's been about 22 minutes since we started that PDI, Leah.
And again, we were anticipating landing at about 11:31 a.m. Central Time, 12:31 p.m. Eastern Time. It can get tricky with communications on the lander when you're in a...
Prop, do we have insight to tank pressure if we turn off the Mogies and the Iggies? We would, yeah.
All right, that's code for the...
if you turn off bogies, then we cannot inert or vent the tanks.
We can bring them back up though, right?
So scientists back and forth as to try to figure out why this hasn't landed. It's now about 8 minutes past its scheduled landing.
Everything off except the vent valves?
Yes.
That would be everything except MV-103 and MV-303.
All right, all this activity is regarding the lander's propulsion system. They're going through deciding on how to vent it. We heard two things there, Leah. We heard MOGIs and IGGIs. That's our motor engine gimbal system, right? And our IGGIs are igniter. So they're working through the process of safing this engine. At the top of the show, we talked about the priorities after touchdown, and being safe was first, followed by pulling down some health status information, and then images. And then just about 3 minutes ago, we heard Dr. Crane go ahead and say,
3403 acknowledged.
we'll prioritize images. It's just about 9 minutes after the expected landing. So let's hang tight and continue to watch this problem and challenges unfold inside of Mission Control. Each one going through, finding this challenge, each one getting solved here. It sounds like they're still working through venting the engine system.
Let's go back to Intuitive spokesperson Clayton. Clayton, how are you reading what's happening now? We're 9 minutes past that scheduled landing.
Yeah, obviously it's not what they want to have happening, but they're trying to get understanding of why and what exactly happened. Part of the importance of the ground team on mission control is to analyze their systems, each individual system, and then take a systems engineering approach between flight controllers to figure out what the problem is and what a potential solution might be. So, this is difficult stuff. Not only getting to the moon with an unmanned craft, but trying to get it to the South Pole is even more difficult. So my fingers are crossed for these guys. It's a bunch of smart people that are asking each other the right questions and trying to ascertain from the telemetry of the spacecraft what is going on so that they can, in effect, create a solution to whatever problem might be occurring.
And an unmanned craft, we should remind our viewers that this is a machine and they're talking back and forth with a machine. And sometimes that is tricky, especially when that machine is far, far away.
Yeah, it reminds me of messing with a Roomba in my house, right? Sometimes the Roomba doesn't do what you want it to do, and you have to figure out what to do to make it work.
That's right, but your Roomba is not looking for water on the moon,
That's
as is
correct.
part of the mission, of this very expensive device. Talk to us about the investment that is put into not only a mission like this, but the technology that Mark Strassmann was able to see up close and personal.
Well, as Bill and Mark both alluded to, this mission is done in support of NASA and the Artemis program to get probes to the lunar surface such that we can understand better what we're going to try to live and work in down the road. Spaceflight is not cheap. I have my Astro Clay 3Ds of spaceflight. It's dangerous, it's difficult, and it involves dollars. And so all of those things are coupled here today in the Intuitive machine effort to get down to the lunar surface. So, and NASA's making an investment, and Intuitive Machines is trying to bring them a great return on that investment.
The last time we were able to hear those scientists, they said that touchdown hadn't happened, but the rocket was still firing. Is there anything from a technical standpoint, question for all three of you, that sticks out to you there?
Also, FM, I'd like a recommendation on whether or not we keep Talos 1 up.
Well, they have two rocket firings that they're trying to do. The first one was a big one to slow it down from its orbit to allow it to drop down close enough to the surface where they can then do a rotational maneuver to get it vertical, and then it will start to come down to the lunar surface, and then they'll do some more jet firings to brake themselves to get down to the speed they want to allow them to approach and land on the surface. So there are several different firings involved, and I believe it's the same engine as we go forward here.
Athena on the lunar surface soon. We were initially expecting pictures would take a couple of hours to come down.
Yeah, Clayton, it is, and they have powered down the engine. They're safing it as we speak. The spacecraft is acknowledging commands from Earth, so it's obviously intact and functioning. We just don't know its exact situation, but It is apparently on the surface, and they're treating it that way in terms of the procedures they're walking through right now. The uncertainty here is what happened in the last few minutes of the descent. You know, was the hazard and terrain hazard avoidance system perhaps steering it away from a boulder or something, you know, that would have interrupted the landing or been a bad day for them? We just don't know that yet. But the spacecraft does, in fact, appear to be down on the moon and is functional. It is responding to commands. We're standing by to hear more from Intuitive Machines on exactly what the status of the spacecraft might be.
Did I understand you to say that it is on the moon now, that they are there and we're just waiting for those pictures?
That is what they have said, but we don't have any details yet on what's going down. They're powering down a lot of systems on the spacecraft to save energy. They've got to charge up their batteries with the solar arrays and all that. But like I said, the spacecraft is talking to Mission Control. It's acknowledging commands, and so it appears to be functional, but we just don't have any details on exactly how those last few seconds of the descent went.
Well, Bill, better late than never, right?
I would say, absolutely.
Let's listen in just a little bit more.
Spark 645 acknowledged.
Still in contact with the vehicle right now. We know the vehicle is shut down. Its engines are powered down. We are getting acknowledgement transmissions to the vehicle.
All right, team. Keep working the problem. We're shedding power as fast as we can to keep the vehicle in good health. We are generating power. We are communicating through our telemetry radio, and we are working to evaluate exactly what our orientation is on the surface.
Spark 646 acknowledged. Spark 648 acknowledged.
So keep working the problem. Mark, give our viewers a sense of just how huge this thing is to navigate. You saw it in real time.
Yeah, I think 14 feet tall. It's a big piece of equipment. It's solar powered. It's got multiple payloads on it. Pretty cool thing called a hopper that can bounce around with cameras and sensors, and with any luck, get into craters. Maybe go as high as 300 feet. I did hear them say they're working to evaluate our orientation on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an interesting thought. It also occurs to me, Reed, that there's Clay was talking about his 3Ds. I would say that there's two sort of axioms of space adventures like this. One is that space is hard, and two is that space is the ultimate team sport. And you're looking at this mission control room, and you're seeing the team sport in action here, right? I mean, you're seeing people trying to work through the problem and work through the mystery of what's happening on the lunar surface.
Sending commands to the vehicle. We have shut off.
Sending commands to the vehicle. So, and I'm understanding that they're shutting down power. To our former astronaut on the panel, how important is that in moments like these when they're problem solving to cut power? I would imagine that's a preservation move for what they hope will be a continuance of this mission.
Yes, Reed, you're exactly right. There's a certain level of power that's required to keep a spaceship like this alive and doing what it was designed to do. And so if there are systems that do not need to be powered on at that time, we can take them down to zero where they're not sucking any power from the battery systems and the solar panel systems. So it's a smart move. We did it on the space station all the time to, when we had issues, we could power down certain systems that we didn't need at the time. And then when everything was resolved, we could bring those things back up when they were required. So it's a very smart move. It's a very standard space move. The mission controllers are very, very well versed in what they can power down and what they should power down versus what they should not. So they won't turn off anything that's required for them to be able to solve the situation here and figure out what position they are in, hopefully on the lunar surface.
Are you saying it is as simple as when my dad and I saw we were driving on fumes in our Chevy that we just turned off the air conditioner to get us up over the mountain? Is that an oversimplification?
No, I think it's right on, right? You know what you can live with or live without in order to get you to the next successful mission milestone. So yeah, pretty close.
Let's listen in.
multipath exists down on the lunar surface just because there are so many different ways. So during
Spark
IM-1, we were
655
sending out
acknowledged.
signals that were bouncing off the surface, bouncing off of craters, and making their way back to Earth. We took I think it was a Saturday and a Sunday to learn a little bit more about the multipath situation. You mentioned, Leah, Odysseus ended up breaking a leg and then laying down gently on the surface, but that communications does create a problem between multipath and learning about those things. Inside of Intuitive Machines' Lunar Data Network, it's comprised of ground stations all over the globe, the largest
Spark,
one of
that's
them
good work
being
so far. What else we got?
the largest ones down in Australia. That is the Parkes Observatory. They call her Miri Yang down there, but that really is what helped us pick up those weak radio signals for IM-1. That's not the dish we're on right now, but it seems like
this is the reality, and we just accept what is. It's going to be some time before we can confirm exactly what is happening there. But as we continue watching these experts do what they said, which is work the problem, let's get some final thoughts. First of all, Bill Harwood, what do you think when you see this?
Everything we can right now, probably.
You know, anytime you try to land something on the moon, it's an enormous challenge, whether it's a government doing it or a private company. In this case, they've landed on the moon. There's no doubt about that. They're trying to determine its orientation. In other words, is the spacecraft standing vertically? Is it tilted to one side? Or, you know, could it have tipped over on landing onto its side? Remember, Intuitive Machines launched a spacecraft to the moon last year that landed hard, and while it was moving sideways, and it did tilt over, which limited the science results. So we're hoping that's not the case here. But as you said, it's probably going to take a few more minutes for them to sort out the telemetry and figure all this out.
And then, Mark, your final thoughts as somebody who saw this before it went up into outer space and got a sense of the hope of the people who invented this and wanted to send it off.
Yeah, you know, it's hard not to when having taken a look at it, it's hard not to root for it to succeed, right? I mean, it's I'm mindful of also just in moments like this how far this era of commercial space has come in a short period of time. I mean, here you have this 12-year-old company, and it's put its second lander on the moon already, and you just have to hope that it was a softer landing this time than it was in February of last year when, as Bill mentioned, it was tilted on its side a little bit. So fingers crossed that they're working through the problem in mission control, and that it's vertical and everything is functioning just as they hoped it would.
Right, and I'm going to roll the dice, and I do not think I'm wrong. Science class of kids all over the United States, likely the world, having the opportunity to watch this live stream. This new generation upcoming, much like the generation in the 1960s, watching space exploration and firsts happening in the trajectory from terra firma up into outer space. A new chapter, is it not, Clayton, as you give us our final thoughts?
Absolutely, Reed. Space is cool again. With Intuitive Machines and Firefly and Blue Origin and SpaceX, everybody, it's just a cool time to be involved in space again. And I think it's important for Intuitive Machines for folks to understand that their goal here is kind of three parts: is to deliver to the moon, and then to be able to communicate back and forth from the moon with these systems that are delivered, and then finally to begin to create that infrastructure which is needed for human presence and in working and living on that surface. So, you know, if I'm a kid today, I'm pretty excited about all this stuff going on, and I'm going to be watching intently. And good luck to IM.
Good luck to all of them. We know you're watching intently. So many around planet Earth are watching intently. It's been great to spend some time with you watching this. No doubt we'll continue to have what happens up there when those images start to come back on CBS News 24/7 and also on the CBS Evening News. Gentlemen, thank you so much, and good luck to a spacecraft that we're still trying to figure out what's going on in outer space. It's been kind of fun watching it.